Welcome to episode 15 of the Robinhood Capitalists. Can you believe it? Episode 15 already, Coach.
15. That's a good number.
What it is? Give me 1 5 up there, and we got it. But so obviously excited about this show. Don't even know how to start it. But so just really want to get deeper diving into the voices. I think there's a big secret to what the voices are all about. This next guest that we're going to have on was lucky to meet her. I think like we were just talking about backstage. We were both probably on the journey, which I think a lot of people, especially if you're watching us on LinkedIn, we're part of the Hounds. What's up, Hounds? But uh, you were in that. Okay, COVID happened. What am I doing? I'm not just going to sit here and wait. And you were trying to make something happen. Um, and so LinkedIn became a source for a lot of us to network, to kind of build things. The Hounds have built an amazing thing over there. The Hounds of Happy Hour with Mike, and that's where Becky introduced me to Mike. So that's thank you for Becky. Um, but Becky, crazy enough, both from Cleveland, so or from Ohio. So she's actually from Akron, but Cleveland, Ohio. So had to rock the Cleveland for her today, but. Again, really just excited to have her out. Excited to have her share kind of her experience and journey with Five Voices. A little deep dive into that, um, and just so you can put a voice to yourself. Now, I want to share also. Did Coach was able to take the test,
Yeah.
and oddly enough, you all might be surprised if you're watching this, but we are the exact same voice. So we are connector, creative nurturers.
Shocker.
Shocker. But with that said, Coach, what did you think? Did you get the whole? Did you read through it? Because I am going to share some of mine, kind of I guess, what was big for me that I pulled from the full report that Giant does, which is the statement, which is kind of telling people, hey, like this is what I'm passionate about. Don't hurt me, because I tell a lot of dreams, but also just some of the other things that I'll share. What did you find when you really took a deep dive into that? I know you guys do something with what you do as well with a similar test.
Yeah, we do. And well, first off, it's kind of like hanging out with the board of tourism director for the state of Ohio. When I hang out with you, there's never a moment without Cleveland or Ohio that comes up somehow. So good on you for loving your home. That's pretty cool. But yeah, no, the report, and I love this type of thing anyway. As a coach, I'm all about helping people discover themselves, because we said in our last episode that the key to a lot of things is to know thyself, and this is a big part of doing that. And what you do is, once you know yourself, and then you start to be able to recognize the characteristics in others, so you get to kind of see what voice they're using, you're better able to connect and have something deeper and more meaningful as you're talking and connecting with people, not just communicating, but actually connecting with people. And so I love this, and I can't wait for the discussion. This is going to be fun. I think I've got a feeling Becky's going to bring it today. So I think this is going to be really good.
Yes, I agree. So without further ado, let's get this show started. I'm going to show a quote, and you, Coach, as you always does so well, led me to thyself or self, which is what our quote is all about. And self-respect, self-worth, and self-love all start with self. Stop looking outside of yourself for your value. And that's kind of what Five Voices, at least for me, was able to do, was to get me to look more inwardly and look at myself and stop looking outwardly at what I thought I was trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get this started. Whenever the video.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
And Becky, thank you so much for joining
Hello.
us.
Thank
Uh,
you. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful to be here.
well, so obviously, like I shared, and I do just want to kind of dive back into right away, is five voices. I'm going to throw up the first thing. I shared it with everybody last week. I'm going to share it again. You probably can look at this chart when I throw it up and maybe guess what you are. Well, don't guess. Reach out to Becky and find out what voice you are, because I promise you it will help you really answer some questions you might have, like I had when we connected and she shared Giant and what she was doing and five voices. And again, five voices to me. Again, for me and Coach, like I said, so our first voice is our connector, then our creative and our nurturer, and I'll let the pro actually break that down better than I can. But also just go deeper into kind of the four. So there's then a fourth voice, which for now, Coach, was it Pioneer for you as well, and then
Yeah,
Guardian?
and
Okay,
Guardian.
so we had the same direct order, and so clearly Guardians, or as I like to peg them, pessimist, are 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 our
Mhm.
kind of nemesis,
Yes.
and that was for me the hardest the battle
Mhm.
that I fought against always, and I'm guessing for most connectors it is. But go deeper
Mhm.
into the voices. Really, just give them a kind of an overview of it in your professional way that I know you will, and then just give them a little bit of your background of what you've done and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Yeah. So Five Voices is a personality assessment that I use when I'm coaching clients. And the way we use it is in a team approach to help people understand who they are, how they're wired, again, self-awareness, like DJ was already mentioning. And then it's also in building emotional intelligence. So understanding the people that are on the other side of you. You already alluded, DJ, that you're a connector. Last voice is guardian. So with the personality assessment that we use with Five Voices, we tell people, honestly, the pushback I get is I've taken so many of these assessments, like, why is this one any different? Or what am I going to get out of this? How do I use it? What are the next steps, right? So the way I describe it to people, you're all five voices. You're not one. You're not just one dimensional. You actually are all five voices. Some are just easier for you to access than others. So for you, connector, first voice, you're going to be the champion of relational harmony and networks and building collaboration with people. And the creative side is like generating a ton of relevant ideas for what you're seeing in the future related to people. I'm very similarly wired. So I'm a creative connector pioneer. So we actually base our information off Myers-Briggs. So that's INFJ. So 1% of the population are creative connector pioneers like me. But again, we think really large, big picture out 10 years from now, thinking about what's going to be happening for people, large scale. Like I'm thinking 30,000 people or more. And the difference between connectors and creatives, so creative first voices were introverts, whereas connectors are very extroverted people. They love people, they love being around them, gain energy from them. Where I'm the opposite. I love people, but I need to get my energy from being alone. So that's the biggest difference. And I can't generate as many ideas as the connector can. So something I'm really good at is problem solving, coming up with a different solution for a problem. And then the other future-oriented voice is the pioneer. So pioneers are thinking out 5 years also, roughly. And they're the champion of strategy, vision, kind of militaristic in how they think. And they like to solve problems, big business problems. So we're in the bucket of future-oriented voices. We're thinking into the future, the opportunities that we see get us excited. So if I were to say, DJ or Stacey, like, what are you most excited about? Like, tell me like what you're working on. Generally for a first voice connector, they're like, oh my goodness, sit down. Let's buckle up. We've got some stories to tell because I've got tons of things I'm excited about. And for me as a creative, it's like, what are you working on that like gets you excited too, but it always has to be for people. Usually for the connectors, it's like, what relationships have you obtained recently or you bumped into that you're most excited about fostering? So in the pioneer, it's like, what are you working on for business? Like, tell me the strategy that you're involved in and like, how are you planning and mapping that out to help people win? What's the legacy you want to leave? And pioneers go nuts. Like that's the way to lead that group of people and the way you get the best from them. The other groups, those are the future oriented thinkers, right? So the people that are thinking most towards like what's coming, the opportunities and things they're seeing. The other group is the present-oriented folks. So that's the nurturers and the guardians. So I cannot do anything they do well. So nurture and guardian is my last voice. So it's like using my left hand. I'm right-handed, and I would be using my left hand to be like a guardian. So details, spreadsheets, they're thinking organizations, systems, processes. And I love them for it because I can't do it like they can. And it is very
Yes,
apparent if you try to make me do it.
I
And then
agree.
Yeah,
nurturers
me
are
too.
those that just, yes, see, so yes, guardians, we can appreciate them because we know what they bring to the table. And yeah, go ahead, DJ.
No, I was just gonna say, so Simon Sinek, I think, nailed it best for me at least. So I always had this just bad view of pessimist because they always would say, "Well, I'm a realist." What does that mean? There's no such thing as a realist. Well, I'm real too. I just think everything. And Simon Sinek explained it the best. He said, "I." The only difference between an optimist and a pessimist, the optimist sees the future always in a positive outcome. The pessimist sees it in a negative outcome. But
Mhm.
the pessimists are your blind spot spotters. And that's when
Mhm.
he said that, I was like, whoa, yes, okay. That is what I need to hold on to. But that is where
Mhm.
I appreciate the Guardian. So thank
You
Yes.
you for
just can't let them worry you to death before they get to the blind spot.
Right.
right.
Yes. So they're just they're like less risk averse, right? So I actually like risk to a certain degree, like a healthy degree of risk. I'll face fear. DJ and I have talked about that multiple times. But the
Yeah.
guardian and the nurture, I would say they're very calculated in what they will do next because
Mhm.
they want to make sure it's going to bring about the best possible outcome in the present. So they're just so present oriented of how can we make things better in what we're doing day to day. So the nurture, the difference between the nurture and the guardian is the nurture is more so geared the one-to-one intimate relationships with people. So you'll find a lot of them in education and healthcare. They just want to make people's lives better in the moment. Like they're just so skilled and gifted at doing that. And when they're thinking about processes related to people, they can see what could be better in their natural environment. So as we're talking about culture, nurturers are the ones you want to get information from if we're talking about culture,
Mhm.
specifically because they're relational and they can intuitively feel how things are happening to the people around them. So you want to get their opinion and what they're seeing as far as the relationships within the dynamic of the organization. So those are the big differences. And again, my guardian friends are the ones that are details, processes. How can we make things better? How can we save money? And they are a gift to organizations. It is awesome to see the voices work together when you have a healthy environment of how each person can bring their best and you just let them.
Mhm.
Cool. And you mentioned
Mhm.
that this is it's tied to Myers-Briggs. How does it differentiate
Mhm.
itself?
So the way we differentiate it, so Myers-Briggs, so the data is taken from that. What we have done, so not me, the founders of the company, they actually took it and condensed it. And then based on the tendencies that we've seen from Myers-Briggs, they actually integrate that in with 5 voices. They help us uncover our blind spots or our tendencies based on how we're wired. So it kind of took it a little step further of, okay, now that you know this about yourself, this could be the tendency that you bump into when you're communicating with other people or in relationship with others. So now with culture being a major facet of what we have to look for in organizations to build them up, it really is important how you interact with others. So the self-awareness piece is, so for me, for example, as a first voice creative, I have a very high perfectionist tendency. And if I let that drive my team, I could burn them out pretty quickly. So I have to recognize that. And other people under stress, you can identify your tendencies under stress a little faster. So it's like, hey, do you see this? When you look in the mirror, if I'm holding up a tool, do you see like what you are doing to your team? And it allows us to kind of dig a little deeper to the tendencies that we'll bump into.
Cool.
Mhm.
And you mentioned you've used the word team a couple of times. When you're working with teams, is that your normal like client base? Do you typically work with teams as a coach?
So I do a couple of different things. I work one-to-one with clients within organizations. And then I work with their team generally. So workshops, team or group coaching, individual coaching. And then my favorite is leadership intensives. So it is the fastest way for me to understand someone and help them understand themselves. So it really builds self-awareness within a day. I'm working with them 8 to 12 hours generally for that first couple of days. And we dig really deep into their tendencies, their influences, and past experiences that have led them to be who they are, their leadership behavior, essentially. and how they're presenting right now. And then we create a game plan of how they want to show up in 6 months. Then we do one-to-one coaching after that. So, but that's my favorite thing to do, because I'm like, okay, let's just go all in, figure out how you're wired, tell me about your experiences, and then let's create a game plan of who you want to be 6 months from now. So it's a fun process to walk people through.
Awesome.
I love that you said let's just go all in. I think that is so. Just listening to Tony Robbins, and obviously he's full of total emergence in everything, and that's what he does. And I just realized after listening to him, if I'm in, and that's kind of what I did with Giant. I mean, when she first introduced it to me, I actually signed up, like I do with everything. I'm like, let me see what this is about. I think I went through every training there possibly is, from I think there's something called altitude or something like that.
Yep.
And then there was the 5 voices. Went through that, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm not going to do it, but this is amazing. And now I understand like what it's all about. But it was that total emergence. I think that is, so what voice out of the 5 voices tends to be the total emergence, the jump all in? And what is, I guess, what is the combo, or what is the one that tends to need the extra push, or that I guess motivation to jump all in?
Great question. So typically the voices that are most interested in personal development or coaching are connectors and creative connectors. So those are the ones that are like, ooh, something brand new, flashy, interesting. Let me jump in and let me see what this is all about and see if I can fit it into my world. So for me, again, one of my values is personal development for myself and for others. So I knew that, like when we were talking to DJ earlier about like coming post-COVID and figuring out your life, I'm like, this is how I was wired. I just want to see people thrive and succeed and just get what they want out of life. And I found Giant. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can do this with this platform, with this organization. This is what I was made for. So it really gave me a lot of energy in life, and figuring all of that out was awesome. But usually the voices that are a little bit more future oriented are the ones that are going to jump in a little faster. The ones that need a little bit more, I would say, guidance, support, or at least, they still have interest in coaching and consulting work, or like nurturers and guardians to some extent. They just structure their businesses differently. So the way they go into it would be different than I structure mine. Leadership intensives, like I said, my favorite thing to do. For a guardian may not be the most exciting part for that. So
I'm glad you went there. So how do you, I guess, as a coach or as somebody trying to get them to break that? Because I think that's, at least for most companies that I was with, that lost me. And listen, I will be a lot of things I didn't realize until understanding my voice is why I've had a million jobs and why I just jumped from one to the other. But it was because of guardians leading the ship, like you're saying, and they don't want to ever think of change. They don't ever, to me, think of change, want to be or live outside of the box. They have their box. They're very comfortable there, and they're not moving. I guess, how do you break through that, or how would you help break through somebody like that?
Yeah.
As an owner.
I work with a few different guardians right now as clients. And I will say, I think that given where we're at as a society right now and the challenges people are facing with staffing appropriately, there's a recognition of, okay, maybe I need to be a little bit more self-aware. So they're willing to jump on the bandwagon to some extent of like, I probably need to work on myself a little bit here. I would say they're a little more patient, and it depends on what the second voice is. So guardian nurturers tend to be the ones that we might see a little bit more caution from, with who they trust and who they'll work with. They have to really buy into trust with you. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it really is. They just have to feel like they're safe, secure. They can have open conversation. And once they recognize they can, then they start to see, okay, these are my patterns. This is why people may not be comfortable around me as a leader. I have one in particular that I'm thinking of. Actually, there's 2 people in this organization that are guardian nurturers and a nurture guardian. And one of the comments that this leader said the first time I was doing her intensive was, people think I'm cold and they just don't want to be around me. They'll say that. I'm like, why do you think they say that? Tell me a little bit more about that. And she's like, I care so deeply about our people that we're serving that I just want it to be done well. So it's having those conversations in front of your team breaks down walls so quickly. But it's first allowing them to be open about it themselves, I think, first, and then opening up around others.
That opening up around others, sometimes the nurturer guardians, they may struggle to find their voice in an organization with that willingness to speak up. What are some strategies maybe for people who are out there thinking, well, that sounds like me. I like to find my voice.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Great question.
great question. Great question. So in teams, I've done a couple of different things depending upon the energy of the room. Sometimes I'll let the extroverts go first because they feel more comfortable. And then I'll just kind of bring the nurturers into conversation with me. So they are the ones that are lowest voice volume. So they're a little more reluctant to speak up. But once you have the team dynamic as such that they recognize that they're not bringing their best, it's almost like a challenge of like, okay, now that you know your voice volume is the lowest on the team and we really want to hear from you, we want you to go first because we want you to speak up. We want you to tell us your opinions. Or if something comes up, bring it up later because we need to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, diversity of thought on a team, on a leadership team, and diversity of these styles and voices is really important to get the full picture of what an organization is going through. And
Yes.
so getting everyone to speak up is huge. So that was awesome. I appreciate the answer. The when when you first got into this, because you said there's a lot of these that are out there and a lot of different types. Was there something about this one in addition that really spoke to you? Was what stood out, I guess?
Yeah. So I had a career in coaching. So my background is I was a PA. So I was a physician assistant for about 13 years. And during the time I was a PA, I also was a health coach. So I was certified as a health coach to help clients, patients lose weight, get off medications and such. Um, and I found that that was the thing that I was most excited about, although I felt like even that I could do a better job. And then found my way into Giant through a mentorship year in 2018 and 2019. And that's how I really got involved in it. I went through the transformation on my own. And it was like somebody read my mail. I'm like, it feels like somebody knows me better than I know myself here. So this is scary. And then recognizing how I'm showing up around people where I'm, introverted, I'm quiet, and some of that's how I was raised. And so just going through the transformation, being able to gain my own voice was like, okay, I want to give this to other people. I want people to be able to just believe in themselves, have somebody fight for their highest possible good that they've maybe never had in their life before. So it just stuck with me. And then the other part of that is when I think of healthcare, and I always will be passionate about changing healthcare towards that of bringing more health practices into it instead of just treating chronic disease. But I think about helping them with a low lift way to scale leadership and have it be a viral platform for them to use. So that's like the secondary piece of it. They need something that's easy to use and that can scale throughout an organization.
What an interesting background. And do you work with a lot of doctor organizations, medical organizations now?
So I've worked with a few of them right now. So the other thing that I honestly will market for is burnout because, and you probably know this, Stacey, too, but when people understand how they're wired, their tendencies, how to stay healthy, that's the best burnout management tool you can give them. And then if it's systemically within an organization, if they're really working towards collaboration and health of the culture, again, that's the way to really manage burnout as we're all headed in the same direction here. How do we make the best use of our abilities together? So right now, my clientele base isn't specifically healthcare. I have a few organizations that are, but some of them are restaurant industry. I have a restaurant company that I worked with for about a year and a half. I have, like I mentioned, a couple in healthcare and aviation, just a variety of different spaces right now.
The restaurant space, that's full of burnout. So
It is.
that's prime
Yes,
territory.
Yes. It is
absolutely.
not industry specific at all. Yes, there are tons of healthcare professionals burnt out, but the data suggests that there's other people as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great background, and so there's obviously a part of you that's a bit of a nurturer too, as far as caring for people. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
burnout. You mentioned burnout, and Gary Vee. I seen a quote from him saying burnout. I think
Mhm.
it's the burnout is overplayed word. It's I changed my mind. You agree,
Mm.
or is it burnout?
So I would say there's complexity here because
There
in
is,
Eric
yeah,
Pearson, who's somebody I follow on LinkedIn, he's a surgeon, pediatric heart surgeon, and he mentioned this the other day that we don't want to confuse burnout with hard, like good work, right? Doing something like a really good job at something, and I agree with that. Um,
yeah.
I believe that people want high levels of engagement, doing work that is energizing, challenging for them, that is, they know they've done something with the skills that they've been given. That's what I feel like engagement actually looks like. Burnout is the
Mm,
opposite, where people aren't fulfilling their potential. They feel like they could give more, but they don't know how, or they're not invited into a space where they can. Or it's hopelessness. Like if you look at the big picture of healthcare right now, a lot of people feel hopeless because nothing's
mm,
changing, or they don't feel like we're going in
yeah,
the direction where it's actually advocating or helping people. And I believe that's a large portion of why people have left, honestly.
mm. Well,
And
I
then
think
if we throw into that, DJ, a loss of a sense of purpose, of feeling like I'm working towards something that actually matters. Over
Yes.
time, vision leaks over time, and so you can go into a company and you love the vision, and over time, it's going to wane unless the leader is really strong. And once you lose that sense of purpose, it's easy to start feeling burnout.
Mhm.
yes, 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 yes. It's
Mhm.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. So Becky, obviously
Mhm.
we talked, you mentioned fear a little bit and we talked and we had those conversations, but you mentioned so you had dove into I guess tell everybody the venture you went on with podcast world, what you're doing now.
Yes.
How I was excited to see you were in the studio, so good for you. Great. I'm so excited for you doing that. I guess what is the new venture? Who are you targeting? Who are you looking to help?
Mhm.
Who can our audience kind of guide your direction? If this sounds like something they might know somebody who needs
Yes.
five voices
That
or any of this direction.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing. So the podcast is called The Leadership Pulse, and we actually started this podcast back in October. And I really felt in my heart that I wanted to help my local community, so Northeast Ohio, in the healthcare space. Again, I just feel like healthcare has to be localized to some degree. So at the level where we know our communities and we know how to help and serve them best. So I found, ironically, this guy, the chamber that I'm involved in, who is a podcast producer. And I had been struggling on, to find the perfect producer for me. And it was just an opportunity at the time. I didn't really expect it. And knowing the direction, I felt like I was being led. I was like, okay, do I take this opportunity? Do I wait? Because there's always the option to kind of postpone things. Or, like what's next? And there was definitely fear. So DJ and I spoke about that. We talked through it. And I think there's always fear when you're going to maybe the next potential stage or just inviting other people into it. But the Leadership Pulse is really geared towards healthcare, towards physicians changing culture in healthcare. So the guests on the podcast are physicians who have not only been great physicians, but they're great leaders. So they've done something with their license, or they've done some, like, I'll give you an example. I have several that are medical entrepreneurs as well. So one guy started a software company to help him fix his burnout. Another guy I actually have on the podcast
Nice.
tomorrow. He's in the ENT space and created med tech related to ENT. And he also consults helping other ENT physicians with their practices. He did that early on. Another guy here in Northeast Ohio is the CEO of his organization. There's 17 locations, and he is in value-based care and just crushing it with helping people think differently about medicine and how to actually adequately take care of people. And it's a team-based approach, which I love, because if you have a team involved, you take better care of patients. So those are the people that I'm targeting. And I am always amazed by how many people I run into on LinkedIn, or even in the spaces now, just networking. I'm like, goodness, people are incredibly resourceful and so smart and so just talented. And if I can highlight those people and how they're making waves in medicine, changing culture, that's what I want to do.
So DJ,
I love it.
as connectors, I think we need to connect Becky and our friend Steve,
I agree.
Dr. Steve. That might be a good guest opportunity.
I agree.
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's Steve.
Yes.
Oh man, he was amazing. Yeah, you have to check out the episode. And anybody
Okay.
who didn't see it, yeah, he's our doctor. For the Robinhood Capitalists, he's our doctor. I will say that. I know Stacey uses him. Me and Maggie will be. But yeah, it's amazing. Just what you're talking about is exactly what he's all about. And so yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Stacey, the whole time. Even the PA thing. I mean that's the
Yeah,
so.
I know.
But yeah, I agree. You definitely, he would be great for you guys to connect with. So we will do that
Awesome.
as
Yeah.
connectors,
I
listening
love it.
to our
Make it
voice.
happen. And
We,
there's
we,
going to be a
we,
time like 3 weeks down the road to be like, oh my gosh, I need to connect Becky with this person. Just like the way that our brains work and stuff. But I love it.
Yes. So I have another slide that you talked about, or that you
Yeah.
shared, and then I do want to get a little bit deeper. So I do have a video that we're gonna kind of finish that last half of the show a little bit deep. But we'll start here, and then I'll give kind of at least my little things that I held on to from my reports. So this, if you want to explain this, Becky, go ahead.
Yeah. So when I'm working with an organization, this is the Five Voices team dynamics. So I love plotting people on this chart, because it helps them see who in their lives they're bumping into and where they may be feeling some friction. So just like a quick orientation of the slide. If you're looking at the top with the nurture, connector, and creative, so we all make decisions based on people and values. So people will always come before profit. Not that we don't understand that profit is necessary for the business to run, but that's just naturally how we'll make decisions. The bottom half of the slide is the guardian pioneer and the creative pioneer. So creative pioneer is actually broken into a couple of different facets here, but on the bottom section of the slide, these people are making decisions based on systems and logic. So they're more, I guess, tactic based. So they are less emotional, I would say, as far as, or less feeling. If we're talking about Myers-Briggs, there's the feelers versus the thinkers, and this is the thinking crew. So they're making decisions based on strategy, systems, and logic. On the left hand of the slide, the nurturers and guardians, these are the present-oriented people. So they're processing information based on what is happening in the day-to-day. So what is real time? What can I assess with my five senses, and how will that impact the day-to-day? On the right hand of the slide, so the connector, creative connector, pioneer, and creative pioneer, the way we process information is for the opportunities for the future. So what's coming? What do we see that really gets us excited and motivated for the future? So that's just a quick breakdown of the slide. And then the other thing to highlight are the nemesis voices, which if you look at the little X in the middle, the guardian is the opposite of the connector and the creative. And the pioneer is the opposite of the nurture, and the same with the creative pioneer. So that's where people can bump into some friction points.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there's friction there. No, no. But I will say though, really, all honesty, I think anybody who's watching this, if you are a new entrepreneur, you've never been in business before, maybe you've never even managed people before, so you're just a new manager. I mean, this is really for me. I mean, I wish I would have learned this a lot sooner. I wish I would have took this test or found this a lot sooner, because it totally connected so many dots that I just was like, there's so much frustration and so much understanding inside of myself, but like, why do I feel like I'm crazy? Why do I feel like I'm around a bunch of people who think and are looking at me like I have three horns coming out of my head and I'm nuts? Like, why? But then it was, Okay. Well, you got to be this, this, and this. And you're probably a gardener. You're probably this. You definitely are this. You don't even say this.
Mhm.
And then it was once I started connecting all of that, it was like, wow,
Mhm.
okay, I know what I am, but now when I know how I come off to those other people,
Mhm.
when I know how they might even a zing, something that stings or might naturally normally sting or make me to turn or be defensive is now like, well, you're just a guardian. I get it. I
Mhm.
sound crazy to you, or I get it. That sounds really fairy tale to you. I understand.
Yes. Mhm.
But I guess now with a team or with the new
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, new even just leaders,
Mhm.
when they can connect those voices, they can connect that in the team. Is there a perfect team, or is there a good combination that a organization or a team should have?
Mhm. So what you'll often see is organizations, I kind of mentioned this earlier, alluded to it, but healthcare and education, you'll find a lot of nurturers because again, it depends on the space in which you have, in which you're working. Engineers, there'll be a lot of guardians. And so in a tech spaces can be a lot of guardians, right? So it just depends on the industry you're working with. Perfect team has all voices represented though, and they're willing to hear the different opinions from each voice. So you want to have a clear picture of who's in your organization and then how to best utilize each voice. Some only have, like I work with an organization that's a marketing industry, but they don't have a guardian. They don't have a guardian. They have a couple of connectors, nurture connectors. And honestly, that probably represents what they need for the majority of it. They have one pioneer. So, and that's okay. It is just helping them elevate each of the voices and be able to have conversations where they can really make some progress forward.
Mm.
Yeah, having a guardian who's naturally adept at being organized and keeping up with details can be very helpful for sure. The
Yes.
when DJ, when you were talking earlier, and you were this whole idea of the perfect team. Let's dig just a little bit more into this, the idea of a perfect team, because I get this question a lot. Is there one voice or one style from other tests? Is there one thing that in your mind is just geared to be a leader? Or
Mm.
because I get that a lot. So, well, I'm a guardian, so obviously I can't be the leader. I hear that kind of thing a
Mm.
lot. So
Ah,
how do you
oh,
come back?
that
Mm.
hurts my heart that people don't feel like they can lead. I think there are personalities that are more geared towards being okay with being in the spotlight or being okay making decisions that are maybe a little
Mhm.
tougher. So the pioneers, for example, are the ones that I see a lot that are like, hey, we've got to just run with this and make decisions. The pioneer guardians in particular. Um, I think that healthy pioneers surround themselves with people who think very differently from them because they recognize that they need a team of people to succeed and it's not just them. I would say the ones that are apprehensive to lead are more the nurture voices, but they're fantastic leaders because they're good trainers. They're good in interacting one to one. It's just helping them believe in themselves and
Mm.
that they're capable of leading. But I don't think we see a lot of them in C-suite positions.
Nurturers?
What do you think, Stacey? I would love to hear your perspective on that too.
No, I think so. The way you ended that, I think, is perfect because it's not that they can't be, and it's not that they shouldn't
Mhm.
be. They need, just like we all do, we just need
Mhm.
that push to
Yeah.
grow and get there. I'm a firm believer. I'm an adherent to John Maxwell. He says everything rises and falls on leadership, and leadership is a
Mhm.
learnable skill. So
Yes.
Yes.
everybody has the ability to lead if we can just
Mhm.
get it out of here.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, I
I always
agree.
tell my leaders, I'm like, it is just reps. It is just repetitions. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
we're being in the gym. We just got to learn this skill. And I have an 11-year-old kiddo that wanted to be student council president for his classroom. And I'm like,
Mm.
buddy, it's just reps. We need to get in front of the classroom to tell, your story and why you want to do this and stuff. And I'm like, it's just a skill set. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. It's just sucking till you're good. You gotta suck. You're gonna suck at everything when you first do it until you do it enough. Like, it's true. I mean, shoot, I still sometimes feel like that in sales, and I've been doing sales my whole life. Like, what is going on? This is not working. But I do, since you led there, I'm glad we're going to go a little bit deeper in this last part. I'm going to share a video, starts with Les Brown, then goes into, it's only two minutes, I think just under 3 minutes long. But we're going to deep dive, and I want to hear both your views on it, how the five voices, Stacey, if you want to go first, but then Becky, if you want to kind of tie in how understanding one, your voice from the five voices and where you lie, but then also how this can really tie into just understanding as growth individually, whether it's business, whether it's just personal or professional, just growing as a person, how this can help. So there you go, y'all.
First step is getting completely and brutally honest enough to say, I am tired of myself. When you say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's the facilitator of change. That's when you're ready to say these words, no more excuses. No more excuses.
You know that you have an image of yourself inside. When you stand in front of a mirror, you see a reflection of the physical you. But that's not the real you. You have a picture of yourself in your mind. Do you know Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a book back around 1960. It was called Self-Image Psychology, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a phenomenal book. He said it was the greatest discovery of his generation. He was a cosmetic or reconstructive surgeon. And he found he would do work on people. He might have done a nose job or removed a terrible scar. And he noticed that when he did that, there was a phenomenal change in their personality. But he noticed with others, he would make a phenomenal physical change and there was no change in their personality. And that led him to postulate that we have two images. We have the one that's coming back from the mirror, but we've got an inner image. And that inner self-image is literally controlling our life. You will find people that have a very poor self-image or low self-esteem. They won't look you straight in the eye. They're afraid to shake hands with you. They're very shy and withdrawn. They go through life hiding from life. They don't like themselves. They don't know themselves. Do you know when a person improves their self-image, they change their entire life? Their income changes, their relationship changes, their health changes. And do you know how you do that? Start studying you. Start to find out more about you. There's something phenomenal about you. Do you know when I began to study this material 57 years ago, I had very poor self-image. I had low self-esteem. I took dumb jobs. I never earned any money. I never had fun. I had poor relationships. And as I started to study real solid information, everything in my life started to improve. I've got friends all over the world today. I earn millions of dollars. I'm in my 80s and I got as much energy as a person in their 30s. You see, when you start to understand really who you are, you're God's highest form of creation. There's things about you that just about blow your mind as you start to study and really understand them. You'll walk a little taller. You'll stand a little straighter. And you know something? You'll enjoy a whole lot more of life.
That's, for me at least, just speaking on for myself, from my opinion, once five voices came to me, connected all the dots for me, that couldn't have spoke any louder to me. And so that was a video I've had for a while, listened to over and over again. Like, I have quite a few different playlists on YouTube for videos like that. But what are you guys' thoughts? Five voices. How does that connect? And really, how is learning yourself can unlock like the great?
That's a tough one to follow. That's good stuff. And Psycho-Cybernetics is a great book, and I've used that material a lot in speeches and trainings and things throughout the years. But Becky, I don't know where you stand, but I'm a firm believer that you'll never outrun your own self-image, and knowing thyself and clarity around self and values and principles and really knowing who I am and what I'm all about is foundational to any success.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I felt like before I went through Giant, I felt like I had a pretty good handle on who I was. And then going through it, I'm like, I knew nothing about who I was. Like, didn't even scratch the surface. I'm like, wow, and I read personal development books for years, probably 10 years prior to that, reading tons of different material and thinking I had some handle on it. Kind of like what you mentioned earlier, DJ, of like just feeling like you were missing something. And for me, this was the missing piece of just deeper understanding of how I show up around other people. And I think recognizing that for me, it has unlocked so many things I thought about myself as far as negative. I think the limiting beliefs, it's allowed me to just understand where they come from and then start the rewiring process and just allow me to more deeply connect with people. Like, you're just raising my kids, it's different now. Just the ability to see who they are individually. And so personally and professionally, this has impacted me so greatly. And I think when we do this work of self-awareness, it really is, it impacts every relationship, not just one's professionally.
Yeah, I think the piece for me, because I've like you said, I'm a huge consumer of personal development material from early age. My dad had me listening and reading to Earl Nightingale and Zig Ziglar and all that stuff back in the day, but I never really put it together that I should take these principles and use it to connect with others and to recognize the same things that I see in me and others, and to give them the grace that I give myself to just come together. And so once I put that piece together, then I realized how powerful this really is. And so my question here is, so many of us have gone through, we've taken whatever one, maybe we've used Giant, maybe we've used Myers-Briggs or DISC or whatever we've used. And it's just like, yeah, that's cool. It's interesting. But a lot of us have never gone beyond that. So when you are when you're trying to turn somebody's mindset around who's taken 1,000 of these, and how do you turn them around to really break into that? No, this can really be impactful if you just jump into it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think like the initial, I bring it up right away. I'll be like, hey, I know you've taken a ton of these tests before, or if you haven't, then great, this is your introduction to one.
She actually said those exact words to me, and I've taken probably every test that there is. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. This might be cool. I mean, I've taken the DISC. I've taken probably I've taken more tests. I mean, because I've had a lot of jobs, let me tell you. So I've taken a lot of tests, and so, but I'll tell you, she said those exact words. I did the exact what you're saying, Stacey. But I think we try to find the right thing for people, but the right thing is not right for everybody. It's just right for the right person. And like this, at least for this test, this was right for me, because it was like, boom. I mean, it smacked me in the face, like, because it just connected a lot of Ray Dalio stuff about there's only a certain, amount or types of people, and just humanity itself, and just how we're expanding, but really the same. I mean, we are very stretched, but the same. And so, yeah, she said the same thing to me, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. Like, and then, it blew me away. So I think it's just for the right person, honestly, because I've taken all of them.
And I'll be honest, it's interesting because even if I have people take the assessment for a team or a group coaching session and they don't really engage with that, like, I personally love it. It's one of the things that changed my life, but there's usually another tool that I'm showing them or something I can help them with, even if it's not that foundational tool that I use. So another one we use is Know Yourself to Lead Yourself. There's usually something somebody wants to improve. There's a behavior that they want to improve, a relationship with their kid, a relationship with somebody that they're bumping into every day, or there's something they're going after, a health goal, or, for one of the, I did a training a couple of weeks ago, and it was a small training. It was the second iteration going through this with an organization. And one of the people shared, he's like, I need to stop drinking at night because I'm not getting adequate sleep and it's affecting how I perform. And it was like, wow, he just like literally shared that with 8 other people he barely knows. And it was like, this is why we do the work we do, because there's something people want to change. And when they voice it out loud, it's the gateway to then taking action. So yeah, it's amazing.
I love that you went there because that was where I was going next. So Tony Robbins, I think he nails it when there's really two things that people want in the end. It's to first know that they're enough, and then to know that they'll be loved, uh, and to be loved. Like that really is. But those questions we're always questioning. Am I doing enough? Am I enough? But we don't want to say it. We don't want to say it, especially to the people we want to know. Am I enough? Like, am I enough for you to, and we're afraid to share that. But that really is, I think, that core that people need to understand. Like you have to, like he shared in that. He was very obviously just felt like, man, this is a free space. And that is when you can build a team, when you can be a leader that builds a team that shares that they're just willing to be very vulnerable and open. Now you're a trusting team, and that's what I think Simon Sinek really is all about. And that
Yeah.
there's a team, but then there's a trusting team, and that's a huge difference because people could be on teams, but I've been on lots of teams, sports teams that you could tell they weren't. This guy is not blocking on purpose. Like he wants me to get hit. There's certain things like, but um, but like it's just that there, and when you have that team that clearly you made it space, like you're saying, that he was just like, hey, I have this issue. Like nothing even,
Yeah.
how do you build that, or how can a leader harness that more through Five Voices or through Giant or anything?
So number one, it's creating the space for it. So dedicating time to really connect with your people. So Dr. Vivek Murthy has the document on workplace well-being. First is psychological safety. So making sure people feel emotionally safe is the first thing. And it's physical safety along with that. And then the connection is the second thing. People want to feel like they can be themselves at work and outside of work. It's the same person. They don't have to be different. So I think it's number one, creating that space where people can just feel like themselves. Good leaders go first too. So it is sharing vulnerability, and it does not have to be over the top vulnerability, sharing your deepest, darkest things, but it can be, hey, I'm working on this because I've noticed it impacts me if I'm doing this. And that's not something that I want to show up as here. And then it invites other people to share the same thing or share something that they're then working on. But I think it's not something, if you've never done it in an organization, it's not something like, I'm going to go just be really vulnerable with people and expect a response back. It's layers. So it is,
You don't just share your secrets with everybody.
No, if you've never done something like that before, it's like a simple icebreaker. And then it's peeling away the onion to where you can get then to the deeper spaces where people are willing to jump into those conversations.
Yeah, and you get people that have been there together for years, and through that they all say, "Well, I didn't know that about you,"
Yes,
and those little things make a huge difference.
it does. Yes, it's different layers of trust. Then conflict happens, and it's like not as big of a deal because you know you're for each other. At the end of the day, the team knows that we're in it for a reason, and we're going to go towards unity regardless of what that looks like.
Well, let's, Coach, you want to wrap it up? Any last thoughts? And then Becky, if you want to give some shout outs of where they can follow you. And you mentioned your podcast tomorrow, so let them know where they can catch that at.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the last thing, nothing really to add for me other than I've just really enjoyed the conversation. It's been awesome getting to meet you, Becky, and this is the kind of thing I love to talk about. So hopefully we can do this again and maybe talk a little more about some things for the future. But this has been really fun, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Great to meet you too, Stacey. I always love meeting other people who are in spaces, doing big things and changing the world. So I appreciate the time here. Same with you,
this is
DJ.
awesome.
I mean, you were one of the first LinkedIn people I met. So it's always awesome to get to talk with you.
Yes. Well, thank you. Seriously, thank you for this. And really, I give the props to Five Voices because it really did. For me, I mean, it's what gave me the idea of the whole Rubik's Cube idea that we keep toying about, and Becky and Coach might have something to do with that here soon. But we really just kind of unlocked the voices for me, and really unlocked kind of where I struggled for the longest time. with just connecting. I feel like there's not a team that I fit on until I figured out like what I was and who I was and who was right the really the right connecting voices, but more how to just respond to them. Um,
I don't know what you unlocked in him, but he moved here, and it was like he's just connecting everywhere.
He's
We
free.
unleashed an animal. Yeah.
you
He's
sure
free
did.
to be who he is.
Yes, it was literally like, I mean, it probably, I mean, I will say this. I mean, Maggie beats me up enough. I am very overexcited about these things, but I literally, it was like unlocking a cage and like, poof, like just go connect people, see what happens. Okay, that sounds fun. Let's go do that. And literally, it's been 2 years of LinkedIn connecting to in-person connecting, but it was understanding the voices even and understanding like, okay, and really understand. I mean, well, maybe this is for a future conversation and maybe for both of you coaches to deep dive deeper into, but empaths. I think there's something about empaths. I believe to the core, I am an empath. I think there's something about mirroring neurons. I've heard Tony Robbins talk about it, so I know at least some super smart guy knows about that thing, so it can't be too woo woo. But I really think that once people can understand their voice and find the crazy connectors like me or Stacey, who's obviously not as crazy and a little more calm of a version of me, but somebody like us who can connect them to the right pieces. I think in the coaching, the last I guess I'll give a little plug for Giant, but the coaching and the whole training that I went through and seen of the five voices, they did the classroom kind of view of it and them really understanding everybody on the team, but it was more the liberating, and I'll throw that up there. It was the liberating statement, and so I did kind of snap a few, and Stacey, you might notice these from yours because we had the same, but our liberating statements. So for us, connecting creative nurturers, this is our liberation statement. But celebrate life with me and understand that at my best, I don't separate work, rest, and play easily. Regularly ask me what I'm excited about, and then let me tell my stories, because obviously I have tons of stories, right? Um, Never stop believing in me. Appreciate my strategic connections and encourage me to keep dreaming about changing the world and expanding our influence. And that really is kind of the driver I'll speak, at least for me, and let Stacey kind of back that up. But that was the driver for me in doing this podcast. I want to change the world as much as I can. This has nothing to do. I realized from my voices I'm a very simple person. I don't need anything. Um, but I also realized that what I do need is progress. Again, Tony Robbins. I need that constantly. I need excitement, and I need to help find people who believe in something big, so I can be part of it and help them make it as big as possible. And that's what really drove me to be here with Loyalty Brands and doing everything that I'm doing here. Moved my family to Virginia Beach was just this dream of being part of something bigger than myself, and our mission here of the Robinhood Capitalists to help 10,000 families create heaven on earth because I believe it's possible. I'm living it. Not in all facets of the life, but in the facets that matter to me, I am living it to the fullest. And that is where the fulfilling life, I think, of this journey of life comes from. And it's understanding that you are trapped inside this box, and it's not until you find the right colors or people around you and how they can all connect with you to really unlocking what I think is the secret of life and the secret of getting the most out of this life, at least this part of this journey of life. Um, Bob Proctor said in that video, we are God's greatest creation. I think that we have the ability with our words or with our writing or even our writing on a keyboard out there. But when we put stuff out there, it breathes life, good or bad. Um, so just keep putting out good. But again, thank you. Becky, as always.
And tell us how to get in touch.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, plug yourself before we end.
Yeah, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. So that's a great way to get a hold of me. So just look up Becky Wolfe and you'll find me. Other ways, I have a website, beckywolfe.com. You can email me at becky@beckywolfe.com. And I'm on Instagram, so Becky Wolfe Coaching. So that's my handle on there. So
Yes. And then the podcast, y'all remember
Yes.
tomorrow. What time?
So it's pre-recorded. So I'm recording tomorrow.
Okay.
It'll be out probably in 2 weeks. That episode will be out in 2 weeks.
Okay, so 2 weeks. Be on the lookout. Follow her, Becky Wolfe. If this connected anything for you all, if it helped just to guide any direction, please reach out. She will even just take the test. We'll share it. I will share it under the YouTube. I'll share Becky's link. Jump on it. Take the test. There's a free version just to find out your first voice, but then there's also a deeper to give the liberation statements and all the things that you've seen that I shared. So it really is powerful. I promise you. I know it's like all the other tests, but if it connects anything at all, then it will make Becky's day, I'm sure. It'll make our day here on the Robinhood Capitalist. We just really want you to unlock your greatness that you have inside you.
Yep.
That's
Just like the old Southwest commercial, it would go ding, you're free to move about the country. Well, this means you're free to be you, and it's okay to be you, but you got to know who that is. So take the test, learn who you are, and it's beautiful. Whatever it comes out is beautiful. Be you.
Yep,
be
absolutely.
you. Great ended, Coach.
Yeah.
So as you all know, and Becky, Thursday we will be recapping this. So if you want to see me and Coach Thursday mornings, 9 a.m., we'll kind of deep dive into a few things we talked about here, and really just get more on the business side for the entrepreneurs and the maybe startups or anybody who might be following us and just want to go deeper into that. Please obviously share your comments and thoughts and questions. And again, reach out to Becky. But as always, please, like Coach said, be you, be the true you, be the real you. Try to live in that skin that you want to live in, and just remember to keep feeding the good wolf. Till next time.
I'm always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just an addict for the